He was just another face in the crowd, overlooked, underestimated, dismissed. But what he did next would change everything. Jamal, a 17-year-old black teen, walked down the busy city street, backpack slung over his shoulder, and spotted a homeless man shivering on the sidewalk. Jamal didn't have much as lunch money, barely covered the bus ride home. But when he saw the man struggling, he reached into his pocket and gave him his last spare change. The homeless man looked up, eyes wide, gratitude shining. The next morning, Jamal woke up to the sound of sirens outside his window, curious. He ran to see what was happening to the man. He helped wasn't just anyone. He was a local business owner who had fallen on hard times. And he never forgot Jamal's kindness today. He was on the news praising the teen who had no idea how much he just changed a man's life. The man gestured to Jamal, smiling. Jamal's eyes widened in shock and emotion. That small act of compassion opened doors Jamal never imagined. The man offered him a scholarship, mentorship, and a chance to shine. Opportunity knocking where the world had once ignored, and the world may underestimate you. But one act of kindness can change everything. Never doubt the power of your heart. Jamal walked confidently down the street, sunlight breaking through the city skyline. Kindness isn't weakness, it's your superpower. Weeks later, Jamal's life began to shift in ways he never expected. He was now attending a special mentorship program with the businessman who once sat on the sidewalk beside him. The city that once ignored him now watched as he spoke at community events, sharing his story of compassion and resilience. But not everyone was happy. His classmates laughed behind his back, whispering that he was lucky or that the man only wanted publicity. Jamal felt the sting, but remember the day he gave that spare change and the hope he saw in the man's eyes one afternoon. The businessman invited Jamal to a board meeting in a high-rise overlooking the city. Jamal, nervous and out of place among suited executives, stayed quiet, observing the power dynamics around him. Then the meeting took a turn. The businessman praised Jamal's insight on a community project and asked for his advice. The executives, who had dismissed him as just a teen, leaned in, listening intently. Jamal's words carried weight. His voice, strong as ideas, respected the room that had once overlooked him, now hung on every sentence. The meeting ended with a round of applause and an offer for Jamal to lead a new initiative aimed at helping at-risk youth across the city. Walking out, Jamal realized the lesson was clear. Small act of kindness could ripple far beyond what you see, and those who underestimate you often have the least idea of the storm they've awakened. He smiled as the city skyline stretched before him, knowing that compassion, courage, and integrity were the keys to changing the world one step at a time. Months later, Jamal's initiative was in full swing. Youth from every neighborhood joined programs. He helped create teaching, mentoring, and inspiring others who once felt invisible. The same streets where he had given a spare change now buzzed with hope and energy. But old doubts crept in, whispers from skeptics who said he was too young to lead, too inexperienced to make real change. One evening, as Jamal walked home from a community event, he passed the very corner where he had met the homeless man. He paused, remembering the cold, the fear, the simple act that started it all. Suddenly, a familiar voice called out, "Jamal." It was a businessman, smiling widely. "Come on, I want you to meet someone." They walked into a small crowd where several young teens stood, wide-eyed, nervous. The businessman gestured toward Jamal. "This is the person who changed my life. Now he's here to help you." The teens looked at Jamal with awe and hope in their eyes. Jamal felt a surge of emotion, realizing that the cycle of kindness was continuing and that the smallest gesture could ripple through generations. The city that had overlooked him now celebrated him. But Jamal knew the real power wasn't in recognition or accolades. It was in lifting others when no one else. With the streets whispered the truth. Strength isn't measured by wealth or status. It's measured by heart and courage. Jamal walked forward, confident, determined, knowing that one small act could spark a lifetime of change. Years later, Jamal had grown into a young man whose reputation for kindness and leadership spread far beyond his neighborhood. The scholarship and mentorship had opened doors, but he never forgot the day he gave his last spare change to a man no one else noticed now. He stood in a bustling community center named after the businessman, filled with children and teens hungry for guidance. Jamal led a workshop on compassion and resilience, his voice steady, commanding attention even from the most restless kids. But the city had its cynics, people who doubted that a single act of kindness could ever ripple this far. One afternoon, a local news crew arrived to cover the story. Jamal welcomed them humbly, knowing this wasn't about fame. It was about showing what one person's heart could spark as the cameras rolled. He shared the story of the cold street corner, the shivering man and how a single moment of generosity had changed everything. The businessman stood beside him, proud but quiet, letting Jamal's words shine. Suddenly, a teen raised his hand timidly. "Can anyone like us really make a difference?" Jamal smiled, looking around the room at the eager faces. "Yes," he said, voice firm, "because it starts with one small act, one choice to care when no one else does. That's where real power lives." As the camera panned out, showing a full room alive with hope and energy, the lesson was clear. The world may try to underestimate you, but courage and compassion can turn the tables, spark change, and leave a legacy far greater than wealth or status. Jamal walked out into the sunset that evening, knowing that the power of the heart was unstoppable. Decades later, Jamal had become a respected figure in the city, known not for his wealth or titles, but for the lives he had touched and the doors he had opened for others. The community center he had once walked into as a nervous teen now stood as a beacon of hope, filled with laughter, learning, and opportunity. But the journey hadn't been easy. He remembered the whispers, the doubters, the times people told him he was too young, too powerless, too insignificant. One crisp morning, Jamal returned to that same street corner where it all began, the cold, the fear, the small act of giving. He remembered it all vividly. A young boy stood there, eyes wide, holding a few coins. Jamal smiled and knelt down. "Kindness," he said, "is never wasted. One small act can change someone's life, and maybe even yours." The boy's eyes lit up as he handed a coin to a man sitting nearby. Shivering and forgotten in the chaos of the city, the camera panned out, showing the ripple of small acts spreading through the streets. The city alive with quiet heroism. Jamal's heart swelled with pride. Not for recognition, not for fame, but because he had witnessed a cycle of compassion continue, growing stronger with every hand extended, every life lifted. The lesson was undeniable. The world may overlook you, underestimate you, even try to hold you down, but courage, kindness, and heart of a power no one can take away. And as Jamal walked away, the sun breaking over the skyline, the city whispered back a truth he had known all along. True strength comes from lifting others, and the smallest gesture can leave a legacy that lasts forever. Hit that like button, subscribe for more stories that matter, and let's keep the conversation going.